Hey y'all, welcome to the Memoirs of a Sinner, a personal growth podcast by Her Kinkz. God meets the needs of his people. Before I go into depth on 1 Kings 17, I have to give you guys a bit of a backstory. Go back just a little bit to 1 Kings 16, verses 29 through 34, just so y'all can get a little bit of an understanding on why 1 Kings 17 is even happening, right? So it tells a story about a king named Ahab. He is a king of God's people, which are the Israelites, and there were kings before him who showed off, and God knocked them up, hit them upside the head a couple times. But there was no king like Ahab that really showed his behind. Ahab topped it off. In 1 Kings 16:33, it literally says that Ahab did more to provoke the Lord God of Israel than all the kings of Israel who were before him. He pushed it to the limit. Not only did he worship idols, but he married a woman who worshiped idols. And they even had idols and statues around the city where they were trying to provoke God's people into this belief to stop believing in God and to start worshiping this God that they had created, right? So they were pushing it, right? Now, fast forward, go a little forward to 1 Kings 17. Elijah, who was a prophet, goes to Ahab, and he's like, as the Lord God of Israel lives, I stand before him, and there will be no dew and no rain during these years except by my command. Now, this is important because without the dew, without the rain, then the crops and vegetation can't be watered, right? And without, so that's their vegetation that they trade, that they eat on, they feed them and their families, and they trade with that as well. But also the animals are without water, and if the animals aren't healthy, like you can't use them for meat and for sacrifices. So it's kind of, they taking a hit, all because Elijah said enough is enough. It won't be no rain until I command it, right? Let's shut all this up, right? And so after Elijah did that, God goes and tells Elijah, go and hide yourself by the wadi where it enters the Jordan, and you're going to drink from the wadi, and I'm going to have the ravens provide food for you. Now, a wadi is a valley. It's a piece of dry land that is literally watered. It's only watered during rainy seasons, right? Mind you, Elijah did already stop the rain. So as time goes on, that wadi, that valley dries up because Elijah commanded it to stop raining. So he's being sheltered near this body of water, getting what he needs. God has him in hiding because they're going to kill him because of what he did, because of what he said. Um, Shows you how much power is in the words of somebody who is in relationship with God, how God will push that and give emphasis to those words to make exactly what he commanded to come to pass, okay? How he uses his people. But anyway, so the wadi dries up, right? And if Elijah had already said in verse 1 of 1 Kings 17 that it won't rain until I command it, he could have commanded that it rained, but it wasn't time. He had to wait for God. He had to wait for God's timing. I'm sure God was like, nope, they're about to suffer a little longer. I got you. Just because this water dried up, I got you. They gonna suffer, but you're gonna have everything that you need. So God tells Elijah to go to Zarephath, and there was going to be a widow there who was going to provide for him. And so he goes to Zarephath, and he sees a woman, and she's coming to gather wood, and he asks her, he said, can you bring me a drink of water? And so, he asked her for that thing, and she gave it to him. Then when she came back, he's like, you know, can you go and make me some bread, make me a loaf? Now, the woman is like, yo, I don't have much. It's just me and my son. I only have a handful of flour and I have some oil. And I was planning on preparing that for me and my son. And after we eat that, that's our last meal, we're gonna die. We're preparing for death, right? And so remind you, she only has a handful of flour. And then Elijah goes to her. Elijah says, before you make you and your son bread, food with that little bit of flour, make bread with that little bit of flour and that little bit of oil, make me a small loaf. And I know I would be like, wait a minute, sir. The handful that I have is the small loaf. What do you mean? You want me to break some of this off to get to you? Like, what's going on? But if you go back just a little bit, right? So 1 Kings 17, verse 8, it says, the word of the Lord came to him. Get up, go to Zarephath that belongs to Sidon, and stay there. Look, I have commanded a woman who was a widow to provide for you there. So she had already got a word from God, right? That some type of an understanding, some encounter that she had to provide for somebody other than her and her son, that she was going to have to do that, right? So God had already gave Elijah a word and he had gave her a word. So even though she's kind of like, what? Like, God may not have given her the full details that she was going to provide some of the little that she had left. She knew she was going to be doing something. I'm sure she probably thought, oh, let me just get it. What God is telling me to do when he said provide, he meant this cup of water. I got you. I can get you some water, right? But now you're talking about you want some of the little bit that I have. We're about to eat this little bit and die afterwards. Like, how am I supposed to break this off from you? But then Elijah told her in verse 13, he said, don't be afraid. Go do as I said. But first make me a small loaf from it and bring it out to me. Afterwards, make yourself and your son some. For this is what the Lord God of Israel says. The flour jar will not become empty, and the oil jug will not run dry until the day of the Lord sends rain on the surface of the land. So now Elijah is telling her, if you make me give me some of what you have, break me off a piece of what you already have, and provide for me, I will make sure that if all you have was a handful, I will make sure the jar is never not full, right? That it will never go empty, right? And so I can only imagine her like, okay, I'm gonna just trust it. I don't know this man. I got a word. I'm gonna just trust this thing, right? Roll it all out. So she went and did it. She went and made Elijah the bread, the small loaf, and for many days after that, they never went without. Her son, or Elijah, the cup pressed down, shaken together, running over was happening in their lives. More than enough. Everybody had everything that they needed from that one encounter, right? Now, time has gone on. Her son falls ill and he dies. And the woman is hysterical. She's like, yo, Elijah, what are you doing? Like, are you punishing me because I don't worship your God? Like, what is going on? Um, you know, is it because of my sin that my son just died? And so Elijah goes to God and he's crying, he's weeping, and he's praying over the boy. He's talking to God and he's saying like, God help me, God, please let this boy's life return to him. So God heard Elijah's voice and he returned the boy's life to him. He heard Elijah's voice, a familiar voice, a voice that he's used to. He knows Elijah's voice because Elijah talks to him often. I'm so used to you. I know you. I know when you're crying out. Hold on, let me look out for it. What you need? I got you. Hold on, I got you. And so God looks out for Elijah and brings the little boy back to life. And so Elijah takes the boy back to his mother and he says, "Look, your son is alive." And the widow says to Elijah, "Now I know you are a man of God, and the Lord's words from your mouth is true." Nah, she has already seen a miracle. She has already seen God move in her life. He brought Elijah into her life, and because she provided for Elijah, God made sure her and her son had everything that they needed. All three of them had everything that they needed. But that's not what made her, that didn't help her unbelief. What what gave her belief is when her something that she loved and deeply cared for, she was losing it. Now, coming from a woman's standpoint, um I aspire to be a mother. I am not a mother yet, but I feel like I can relate a little bit, because if it's me and my son about to lose our life together, obviously that's a form of grief. You will be like, dang, we both up out of here. But to know, to have to live with knowing, ooh, I'm not about to get emotional. To have to live with knowing you don't have your child is a whole nother thing, right? And so seeing the the power of God moving through Elijah helped her with her unbelief. She's like, "Oh, now I know. Nah, I saw you provide. You provide the food we've been eating. We have what we need, but to see you resurrect my son, to bring my son back to life, knowing that he didn't have any breath in him, and now you brought him back to me with breath in him. Now I know. Now I know, for sure, that you are a man of God and that God moves in and through your life, right?" And so, God bringing these two people together, he gave them both a word. He gave Elijah a word and he gave the widow a word, showing that he is not the author of confusion. He did not tell Elijah to go to this place and there will be a widow, and the widow be extremely confused on what's going on. She don't know nothing. What you mean? You need what from me? No, she had already got a word. So both parties got a word. Both needs were met. They both had an understanding of something coming. You may not know the full detail. They didn't. God didn't give him a description of the widow. Yeah, she got long hair. She's very slim. She's about 5 feet tall. He didn't go into detail. He just said a widow. A lot the what helped Elijah to realize who that widow was. He asked the woman who he saw. He asked her for something. So he asked her for the first thing. She like, okay, I got you. But when he asked her for the second thing, asked her to make him a loaf of bread, and she said like, I don't have much. That gave him a little more wisdom and understanding, like, this is the person, this is the woman that God is calling me to. The first thing, okay, she got the water, but let me ask her for something else. Let me see if she give me something else, right? Give me what I actually need, what I really need to eat. He needed water as well, but I need to eat too. So let me see if I can ask her for this and she's going to provide for this too. If she doesn't provide this for me, then I know she's not it, right? Um, so, and the widow knew that somebody was coming. She got a word from God too, that somebody was coming that she had to provide for. So God made sure both parties had some type of awareness that some type of an encounter, something was about to take place, to prepare for it, to be expected of it, right? In Acts chapter 9, God did that. He had, first of all, the Bible is full of stories where God has two people having an encounter. And in every single encounter, he lets both parties know to be expectant of something. He may not give you full details, full wisdom and knowledge on it. He give you a little nudge, right? He ain't gonna tell you the whole thing. So in Acts 9, in the story of Saul and Ananias, God told Saul, when you get to the city, now that you have been blinded, somebody's going to come and give you instructions and direction to tell you what's the next steps. And he told Ananias, go, there's a man named Saul waiting for you. Go lay your hands on him. So there was clarity and direction from both parties. And I don't think that it's a coincidence that Acts 9 is followed by Acts 10, where God gives Cornelius a word and he gives Peter a vision and an understanding that something's about to take place, an encounter is about to happen, an encounter that I want to take place. And all of these stories, God uses somebody who is in a relationship with him, who is closely knit to him, to be a blessing and to draw, to give and something, a higher level of wisdom, discernment, understanding, blessing, belief, to help them with their belief, right? To encourage them and to uplift them in a whole nother way, right? And so I want you to be expectant. Whether you're the person who is going to be used for the encounter, or you're the person that God is sending someone to have an encounter with you, be expectant. Be expectant of that thing, because I don't believe that you have taken the time to sit here coincidentally and listen to this episode. God is intentional. He is an intentional God. He doesn't just do stuff to do it. He does everything with purpose. So if this isn't the encounter that you needed, maybe he's preparing you for an encounter. And if he's not preparing you for an encounter, he's preparing you to be an encounter. And I am so full of joy because of it. I love you all in real life. If you'd like to stay connected, you can follow me on Instagram at the Insta About Her, TheinstaAboutHer, and make sure you subscribe and leave a review.